Realize that bringing on the very best people, they change things. They unlock doors for you that you didn't know could be unlocked. They make things happen for you that you didn't know could happen. And we revamped our pay structure. We started paying top of market, finding the best people. We have reevaluated all of our staff, and most of them we let go, and we brought on a much tighter, more incredible team. And that changed the game for us. At that point, we started doubling in size every year. What's crazy, most people think that hiring the best people is expensive. And it's true when you look at a cost per person basis. But if instead you look at a cost per unit produced, the best people are actually the least expensive because they outperform average by 2 to 5 to 10 times as much. And I've seen this over and over again.
When you first took over and you started to finish that project, what happened after that? Just take us through that next chapter, if you will, that brings us forward.
Let's give me a little bit more depth with my dad. He had a stroke caused by a brain tumor and so that day when he got his stroke, he in effect was no longer himself. He was actually still alive, but mentally he was just not there. You couldn't really communicate with him. He just wasn't the same person. And so he actually did live for 6 months, but it was effectively dead. It felt like he was done. So there was still like going to the nursing home, spending time with my dad, even though I wasn't there, we were at least physically present. And then in the business at that time, so we were shut down twice. And one of the big challenges that happened right about that time too is we had a block contractor. And this block contractor I had lined up pulled out like a month before they were supposed to start. And if we don't get the block work done, then the precast can't go on and the entire building can't go. And I got a team who's coming off another project into this project, and I am at a loss because it is really hard finding contractors. What we ended up doing is we created a list of literally every contractor that could possibly do that work in the Twin Cities. And I just started calling as fast and as hard as I could. And so it was, I think there was like 70 people on the list. We went down it every day, called all of them. And some of them got back to us with like, yeah, we could do it, but it's going to be like way more than we can afford, like 5 times what it should cost. And I just couldn't afford that. And it was like pulling teeth, trying to find anyone to come out. And it was terrifying. It was because I knew if I couldn't pull this off, like we'd be in a really, really tough spot. So a couple of weeks into that, I was able to find a block contractor, luckily that could come out. But because of the rush of it all, it turned out I had hired a block contractor that wasn't the best block contractor. And so they ended up installing the blocks around the building. But the way they had done some of the steel reinforcing, they had done it wrong. And so then I had to get a like scan done of the blocks so we could actually like find where the rebar reinforcing was and then reinstall it. And that was the first time the city shut us down and said, dude, what are you guys doing here? You're messing up the rebar. So yeah, that gives you a flair of what's going on there.
Wow. Okay. Well, thank you for adding that extra depth. I know personally, and a number of people I know listen to our show have had parents that have had strokes, or I'd say I know a couple of them that have dementia, and just their parents aren't exactly the same people they grew up knowing. And I wonder, with your father after the stroke, what type of emotional toll or what type of experience did you have over that next few months period with your father, who was mentally not there anymore?
With part of his stroke, he actually did get a little bit better and then would get worse again. So there's this like hope, like, can he actually get better enough to interact in a meaningful way? can we actually connect with them? So there's this like fleeting hope going on, which almost messes with your mind in some sense, because you think, well, maybe we can reconnect again, and then it never happened. He never got to that level, and then started declining again after that. Um, so I think in some regards, maybe was a little bit emotionally guarded. Um, I think when he originally had the stroke, that's really when I um, went through the grieving process of losing my dad. So by the time he did eventually pass away, that moment was less difficult for me because I had sort of processed it much earlier on.
Going there with this, Mike, man, I respect the heck out of you for being able to share that, and I know that it makes a difference to our listeners. So thank you for that. And I'd love to move forward to what happens next after we get the block contractor situation sorted out and we get the underground pinhole leak fixed and we finally get the building fully built and ready for occupancy. You learned some lessons. You skinned your knees and elbow a little bit there through all that and learned a little bit. So what happened next after that first building project was done?
Yeah. So then we started building buildings. And so we built, project was called Emberwood. Then we moved on to sort of one of the best financial projects we'd ever done, Gateway Green. And the reason that is because the landowner struggled to sell the land. It was part of like the 2008 collapse. And they had finished the parking lot, they had finished the streets, the sewer, and the water. And it was for a new site for 84 units. And the land only cost us $35,000. To give you some sense, to put all the street and the sewer and all that water and stuff in there would have been like $300,000 or $400,000. And so we got all that for free, and we got the land, which would normally have cost us $1 million alone. So it was like $1 million gift to us, or more than that overall, which was just incredible. So that was a really kind of a nice happenstance right during that time. We did have to go through the townhome approval, which was a bit of a challenge, and that was partly why the land prices were less. But we worked through all of those issues, and then we built that building. We moved on to additional buildings beyond that. And actually, the next project, something really interesting happened in that I started learning probably the most important lesson, and really the thing that started changing our business and really started to accelerate things, was that I wasn't hiring the best people. In fact, in some ways, we were hiring sort of low-end people because we had a temp service that was helping us find people. Not the way to hire people. Don't use temp services in that regard. But what we ended up doing is we shifted our thinking, and we realized that bringing on the very best people, they change things. They unlock doors for you that you didn't know could be unlocked. They make things happen for you that you didn't know could happen. And we revamped our pay structure. We started paying top of market, finding the best people. We have reevaluated all of our staff, and most of them we let go, and we brought on a much tighter, more incredible team. And that changed the game for us. At that point, we started doubling in size every year. What's crazy, most people think that hiring the best people is expensive. And it's true when you look at it at a cost per person basis. But if instead you look at it a cost per unit produced, the best people are actually the least expensive because they outperform average by 2 to 5 to 10 times as much. And I've seen this over and over again. And that's when things really started to change for our business.